Hello and happy holidays, Fragrance fam. If you're new here, I'm Caitlin and I'm so excited for you to join me today in the AFI Project Lab. I've got something sweet in store for you today. Dessert candles are all the rage and they're perfect for just about any season. It's getting pretty cold out, so I wanted to make a candle that would warm all of my senses. In this video, I'll be sharing my method for making pepperminty hot chocolate candles. I'll show you how to effortlessly add frosted flourish to your candle creations and even how to top them off with some peppermint wax crumbles. Let's get started. You'll need wide-mouthed, straight-sided jars for these candles. You can modify their design to suit your preferred vessels, but something like these jars makes it really easy to decorate it and show off all the little details. Make sure you wick your vessel in accordance to their size and wax type. I'm using my favorite container Parasoy wax, Pro Blend 600, and since the container is about 3 inches in diameter, I'm using CD12 wicks. Adhere your wicks like you usually would with a sticker tap or some hot glue and set the container aside for now. Now it's time to get the wax melted down. I'm going to be using my wax melting pot today because it's quick and very consistent. I love these pots because you can control the temperature of your wax very easily, but a double boiler would work fine too. If you make candles in bulk though, I highly recommend you pick one of these up. You can find them in the $50 range online, which is a small price to pay for fast and easy wax melting. I'm going to be melting down 4 ounces of wax, so I can fill up my candle vessels about 3/4 of the way. This will leave some space for me to add the whipped wax topping later. I've set the temperature on my melting pot to about 185 degrees Fahrenheit so I can add in the fragrance. Speaking of fragrance, I'll be using our classic scent hot chocolate. It smells just like the real thing and instantly makes me want to curl up next to the fireplace. What better scent for a cozy candle like this, right? Once my wax has reached about 185 degrees, optimal pouring temperature in my case, I'll add 0.4 ounces, which I've already got measured out in my bottle. This comes to a 10% fragrance load, plenty to give me a strong hot and cold throw. Stir it in really well, giving it at least a minute to fully blend in with the wax. While you're stirring, you can add some brown candle dye. Dye chips or liquid candle dye both work well for this, but avoid using crayons, food coloring, or mica powder. Crayons have extra additives in them which will clog your wick, and the same goes for mica powders, which can't easily travel up your wick either. Food coloring just won't work at all because it's water-based and can't blend in with wax. 1 drop of brown liquid dye works out perfectly for me. I'm going for a light creamy brown color, but you can adjust how much dye that you use based on your desired result. Generally, 1 or 2 drops per 4 ounces of soy or soy blend wax works well. If you're using straight paraffin wax, remember the dye will show up much more saturated and you might want to scale it back some. With everything all melted down, I'm going to open the spout on my melting pot and transfer the wax to a pouring pitcher. This will make it a lot easier for me to fill my container. Now we're going to allow our wax to cool to pouring temperature. Now we're going to fill our jar about 3/4 of the way. While the wax is still liquid, we're going to center up the wick and use a bow tie holder, and then we're going to give our candle some space to cool. I like to keep my workspace nice and warm and insulate container candles as they cool to minimize sinkholes and wet spots. The colder the candles are as they solidify, the more likely you are to run into these problems. In the meantime, clean out your pouring pitcher and melting pot. To top the candle off, I'll be making some whipped wax. I've got some more Pro Blend 600 wax that I'll be melting down and adding more fragrance to. While this melts, I'm going to show you guys how to make peppermint wax crumbles. I've seen candles topped with real crushed candy canes, but I wouldn't recommend putting food on your candle, especially something so sugary. That sugar will scorch when exposed to the flame of a candle and smell kind of gross, not to mention pose a fire hazard to you and your customers. With that in mind, here's how to make crushed candy canes using a much safer method. These are palm kernel flakes. They're made from hydrogenated palm oil, making them a lot like soy wax, but made from palm. They're fairly brittle, allowing you to crumble them up into small little pieces. Grab a handful and break them up using gloved hands or a mortar and pestle, then split them up into 2 separate containers and add a drop of red liquid candle dye to 1/2. Stir them up until they're coated in the dye and then gently combine both halves. And there you have it, you have yourself some safe candy cane crumbles for your candles. You can use this method for all different kinds of colors to create different yummy toppings for dessert-themed creations. If you make extra, you can easily store them in a baggie or jar for later. Awesome! It looks like the wax is melted down and it's ready for fragrance. So I'm going to add it in, stir it, and transfer it into this glass pitcher. When whipping wax, it's important to use a container that has no coating, as mechanical whisks can scrape away at it and leave little flakes of it in your wax. We've whipped wax in previous videos here on our channel, so I'll keep this brief. To make it simple, allow your wax to cool until a slight film has developed on top. Use a spatula to stir it in until the wax becomes opaque and then get whisking. Small handheld whisk attachment on an immersion blender like the one that I'm using works really well for this. Scrape the sides of the container and squish out any clumps with a spatula to get a really nice smooth mixture. Once you notice fluffy peaks, work quickly to transfer it into a piping bag with a tip of your choice. Different tips will give different looks. I'm using a tip that's similar to the ones on a whipped cream canister. Squeeze little peaks of whipped wax on top of the first layer that you poured, making sure that the surface has solidified. Make sure not to go past the lip of the jar so you can cap it off for shipment. Feel free to get creative. I find it helps to practice your piping on a sheet of wax paper to get the motions down. When you've decorated your candle to your heart's content, sprinkle on the wax peppermint crumbles that you made earlier while the whipped topping is still slightly warm and press it on gently. Once everything has cooled down a bit, finish the candle by trimming the wick and adding your label. They came out so cute! To get the most out of your candles, give them some time to cure based on your wax types. Paraffin waxes cure in a couple of days, whereas blends and soys take about a week to produce the best hot and cold throw. After that, they're ready to be flying off your shelves for the holiday season. Once you get the hang of these techniques, it's pretty easy to make a ton of these at a time. I recommend working in small batches of whipped wax at a time to make sure you've got it the right texture to pipe. When it comes to pricing these candles, keep in mind the time it took to make them, along with the price of your supplies and raw materials. Dessert candles come in many price ranges, and they fluctuate a great deal based on the vessel that you use and whether you purchase your supplies in bulk or not. As always, I recommend testing these techniques using small quantities at first. Then, once you've got it down pat, purchase your supplies wholesale and save yourself a lot of money. And there you have it. The techniques I showed you in this video are useful for making all kinds of dessert candles, so don't be afraid to experiment and try them out with different scents and themes. If you want more holiday project inspo, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the AFI channel. I love reading your comments, so if you have any questions or requests, drop them down below and we'll get back to you in no time. Thank you so much for joining me in the lab today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.